My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at InTheMoneyStocks.com. All right, today's date, Monday, June 16th, 2014. I hope all those fathers out there had a great Father's Day on Sunday. Now it's time to get back into the action. All right, number one, markets are basically flat. Right now we have the S&P up 1 point, Dow up 3 points, NASDAQ up 4.5 points. So markets have been fluttering sideways for the most part in a pretty choppy range. As you can see, again, markets opened slightly lower, ran up right into the 200 in this downsloping trend line, pulled back into this support area, double bottom from late Friday, also these upsloping lines, bounced back into this same downsloping trend line and the 200 moving average, and are now coming off of that just slightly. So really what you would call this is just a range-bound market that's looking to see whether or not it's going to break out or break down. And again, that's what we'll be following. If I zoom out, you can see where this trend line comes from that the market's been hammering on earlier today, the last two times here. And sure enough, it's from the pivot high right here, which was the all-time high on the SPY, connected to the secondary high before the gap down late last week. And that's where you get these two little pivot points, plus the 200 moving averages right there, which kind of creates a little bit more resistance than just a normal trend line. Again, anytime you have two levels there or two lines or whatever it may be, you're always going to have a little bit more resistance than just a normal kind of light level. All right, so that's what we have right now. In my opinion, and I said this to my members over the weekend during the No Hype Live broadcast that I did for them, and again, that was on Sunday night. I basically said that I expected sideways choppy early portion of the week with a bigger move coming in the second half of the week. Why would the bigger move come in the second half instead of the first half? And the answer is very simple. The FOMC, the Federal Reserve, will be meeting. I repeat, the FOMC will be meeting tomorrow and on Wednesday and will give us their FOMC statement on Wednesday. So Wednesday in the early afternoon period, we'll get that FOMC statement. Now, that statement should create some sort of move. You know, you have a lot of things that you're going to be watching. Do they cut another $10 billion, which is anticipated? What do they say in terms of the commentary? Are they saying, you know, yeah, we're dovish, yeah, we're hawkish? What are they going to say, which will influence interest rates? It'll influence the dollar. It'll influence, ultimately, stock prices and commodity prices. So those are the things that we need to be following here, and that's probably why the markets won't swing too wildly earlier in this week. Because, again, all eyes are really focused on that Federal Reserve statement that will be coming out on Wednesday. All right. In the meantime, we can situate ourselves and look for chart trades, and ultimately that's what we did today. There were some great levels today, guys. Number one, a little bit of a pivot top here. This low I gave to the members in the intraday stock chat here at InTheMoneyStocks.com to the penny, literally to the penny right there, and this thing bounced all the way back up. And again, this is a no-brainer level right here, and the reason why I knew that is because you had this low here, which was, so if you take this move straight up, and then you retrace 100% of it, that's that level. In addition, these lines we've tracked for a long, long time, even further than I can show you right here. But right here you can see one of the lines, which is connecting these lows, and that was perfect over here. And the other line actually comes out and goes back even further. So you have to kind of monitor that one. And I could zoom back all the way, and you can see that it comes back from all the way this point and even further back. But it just, anytime you have, as I said earlier, right? I mean, I just said this to you guys a minute or so ago, just when we were talking about up here, how you had the 200 moving average and this line, so it's extra resistance. Anytime you have this line and then these two underneath, when you come into that, it's going to be a lot of support in that scenario. Okay, so these are just, again, little things you want to pay attention to on this intraday period today. And again, markets are floating flat to slightly positive. Volume is 56 million. It's on pace to be better than our normal over the last couple weeks. And again, right now it's 2:20 in the afternoon, so it's 2:20 p.m. Eastern time. And by no means is 56 million heavy volume, but except for the sell-off days late last week, we've been doing about 50 million to 55 million for the whole entire day. So obviously we're going to do more than that today. My guess is we'll do 75 to 80 million today, probably around 75 million. This is the likely scenario. But again, that is a little, it's not heavy volume, but it's heavier than what we've seen lately. All right, and again, probably what's going on here is you have some reaction off the Iraq situation. Oil prices have been driven up pretty precipitously recently, which obviously will work as a tax on the consumer. And these type of things could be pushing people to position themselves slightly different, maybe take a little bit of profits and so forth. I think we saw last week some profit taking on fears from Iraq, as well as some geopolitical tensions with, Russia and the Ukraine. In fact, I heard today that Russia cut off a gas pipeline to Ukraine because Ukraine hasn't paid their bill. I mean, these are all little things that by themselves are no big deal, but when you combine them, it could make the investors a little bit on the nervous side, and I think that's what you're seeing here. Okay, markets are bouncing back up here. A couple charts I want you guys paying attention to, a couple charts that I'm paying attention to. Number one, CLF. Now, CLF intraday doesn't tell us too much here, but again, I like this chart because of the reversal day on Friday. So if you look at this chart again, this has gotten crushed, right? I mean, even just going back a year ago, actually less than a year ago, we were trading at $28, $29. If you go back even further, this was a $50 stock a couple of years ago. Now it's $14. And the key here is to recognize that the only thing that you want to pay attention to was this higher volume sell-off candle right here. So you had high volume, and then the next day you had a reversal candle. And I have no idea if the low in the short term is actually, and by the way, long term, I have no clue. I don't know if these coal stocks will survive long term. Frankly, I don't care. All I care about is finding a short term bounce, which could equal, 25, 30, 40% gain for me in a matter of a week or two. And that's what I'm focusing in. So I'm looking very closely. I like the price action today because it's a pause day. So you had the sell-off and heavy volume, the reversal here. All right, now you have a pause day today. If you take out this high, this is what you're looking for, guys. The high from the last, see this high here and this high right here, essentially the high from the last 2 days. If you can take that out tomorrow or even in the short-term near future over the next couple days, I actually think this gets a nice bid, and you could easily pop to the 20 MA or so, which would be all the way back to like 15.5 or so, 15.30 on the charts. So, I mean, that would be a nice dollar and change gain from current levels of 14 on CLF. Another stock I am keeping an eye on here, Micron Technologies. Micron is potentially putting in a reverse or top right here. Earlier today, you had a beautiful topping tail on the daily chart. That has not held right now as the chart has moved back up as the markets have come off their lows. But this is what strikes me on the intraday. You had this big push early and then this whole negation of it. Now you're floating back up, so we're going to watch it and see how it ends, see how it reacts over the next couple days. But these type of things are very important you want to pay attention to. Tesla's having a big day today, guys. Take a look at that, up almost $13 on TSLA. This daily chart was bullish. All right, anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. And again, off the 200 to move up. Inside bars hugging the two moving average. That's a bullish consolidation pattern. So you really shouldn't be surprised on the pop today. All right, that should not be a surprise. And I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if it goes even higher just based on the pattern. I don't think there's a ton of upside here, but I could see this going back to about this level here. I think 230 would be an approximate level where this could go. All right, so that's what we're seeing there on the charts in Tesla. Netflix today, NFLX, is basically flat. That stock has had a major bounce up, but it's now kind of stalling out. Could this be bullish consolidation? It's possible. Could it also be a short-term top for a pullback? That's also possible. I think a lot will have to do with, how the market kind of survives over the next couple days with the Federal Reserve. All right. Other stocks out there, FIO got bought out today. And again, we've seen a few buyouts, and I've noticed more and more we're seeing these buyouts. Almost every Monday, it seems like 2 or 3 new buyouts are being announced. And you might say, well, why are there being, multiple buyouts right now? And honestly, there's a couple reasons. Number one, these companies need to start growing again. So if you look at any stock, right, any stock over the last, any old school, I'm not talking about like a new growth field like 3D technology, right? I'm talking more about like an older school, I don't know, Google / Apple / the stocks that have been around for 5-7 years or more. Those stocks, they're not growing. All right. The only reason their stocks have gone up are because share buybacks have been taking place, which artificially make you think that they're making more money because their PE ratio goes down. It gets closer to 1. But in reality, they're not. They're not making more money. So what do they have to do? Well, they have to turn to companies that are growing, that they think they can make something out of. And I think that's what you're seeing here. I also think the fact is money is very cheap with interest rates. A lot of these companies are trading at high valuations. The CEOs know that, and therefore they can use their stock as a buyout tool, and you leverage that great valuation right now. So these are all factors I think that are contributing to it. And is there any way to trade it? Well, unless you have insider information, unfortunately, no, because you don't know which the next stock is going to be as a buyout or who's going to get bought out next. But it is an interesting little phenomenon we are seeing right now. Okay. What else are we seeing here? Intel, after the big day on Friday, is kind of stalling out today, basically flat. Hewlett-Packard's having a nice pullback in sympathy to Intel's move on Friday. It went up quite a bit, and now it's kind of stalling out. So we'll continue to watch that as well. Let's just go back to the SPY and just see what we have going on here. Yeah, it looks like the SPY just kind of holding steady. That's the daily chart. If we go back to the intraday, you can see it's just chopping around here. And again, if this were to break on the spiders, then I think you trade up nicely tomorrow as well. So watch this area right here. If this by chance broke down and we closed below this line today, then I think the market's in trouble into the Fed as well. But I think my guess, neutral to upside bias. It's very unlikely that the markets will sell heavily into the Fed. It's more likely if they're going to sell this after, and they may not even sell at that point. But that would be the angle you're looking at. Okay, so I'd be neutral to positive on the markets into Wednesday, and then again, we'll have to look at the charts closely on Wednesday to determine where it's going from there. All right, guys, have a great afternoon, great evening. As always, thank you for being members. Come take the 7-day free trial here at InTheMoneyStocks.com, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.